Thank you. Today I'm going to try and talk about this big question that people seem to ask all the time: how do you get a job in video games, specifically as a sound designer? And somehow I did that recently, about 8 months ago. I'm a junior sound designer at a company called Cloud Imperium Games, which is in Manchester. But to start off with, I'm just going to say I don't really know how it all happens. You talk to people in the industry all the time, and they say completely different methods of getting in. Some people come in through QA. Some people, just apply and get jobs. It's very, very different, and I'm trying to I want to share my experience of what it was like getting into the games industry today. So it's not my hard and fast rules for getting into it. It's more just this is my kind of experience. So as I said, junior sound designer. I make a big AAA game called Star Citizen, which is like a kind of sci-fi simulatory game. And it was my first job in the games industry since I graduated. I graduated in September of last year, and in the same month started this job, which was pretty crazy, really. I kind of got into it because, I don't know, like many of you, I'm sure, I made music. I did music production and audio production when I was a teenager, and I did it at university, and I kind of fell out of love a little bit with making music, and fell in love with sound design, initially for film, but eventually for games. And I kind of took it upon myself at one point and said, I'm just going to go for games. I'm just going to try and make the most of being at university at the time, and try and get into the industry. And as it says, before I got hired, I taught myself completely with the help of the internet. There's all kinds of amazing stuff out there, and a huge community like this one of people that work in games, and people that are happy to share their opinions with you and share their experiences and stuff like that as well. So this is kind of how it worked for me. It looks obvious, but that's kind of how it happened. I applied for the job, was interviewed, did a test, and then they made a bad mistake and hired me. So I'm kind of going to talk about what it was like for me in this process. This is really specifically looking at sound design for AAA big companies. It's different if you're a composer, different for indies and stuff like that. This is kind of my specific experience. So there are junior sound designer jobs that do come up from time to time. They're quite rare. They happen a few times a year. And there's a few different studios around the UK that will advertise for this kind of thing. It's, again, seems obvious, but the basics are still there for any job that you'd apply for. A CV and a cover letter are important. Make sure you kind of show your audio experience on the CV. Don't tell them you worked at Subway or whatever. I don't think that's really very relevant. A show reel and a website. So I will talk about those specifically now. Show reels are very, very important. In my opinion, it kind of, beyond the CV and the cover letter, which kind of, I guess, show that you have experience, a show reel kind of just shows that you are relatively good at what you say you are good at. I say 1 minute long because jobs, especially in AAA and especially junior jobs, there could be hundreds of applicants that apply for that specific position. And if there's an audio director and they've got to look at 300 applications, they're probably not going to spend a ton of time on each application. It could be as little as like 5-10 minutes on each one, if that. So they need to look at your show reel, and in the shortest amount of time possible, a minute or thereabouts, they need to be convinced that you are good enough to get that job. Now, I always say the best work has to be first. Always kind of show what you've done. Like if you're submitting a show reel that has like a game jam thing on, or like a shipped game or something like that on Steam, make sure you say what you've done, because you don't want to kind of take responsibility for work that other people have done. And yeah, I say a strong mix of kind of linear stuff to show that you're actually good at sound design, and then the interactive side of it as well, the middleware, engines, that kind of stuff. And have 2 seconds at the start and end of who you are, your contact details, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then having a website is really important as well. I think it's a great opportunity to show that you are genuinely quite interested and passionate about sound design or whatever. Show off things like your code experiments, engines, middleware, that kind of thing. Kind of show them that you have character and you have opinions and passions. All that stuff is really cool. So don't wear a suit to your interview. Wear a shirt maybe. But yeah, I think from my point of view, the interview is kind of convincing them that they like you as a person. They've seen your work, they've seen your experience, and they're sold on that. And when you go in and meet them face to face or on Skype, they're kind of saying, is this person going to work within the team well? As I say there, try to be the same person you'd be turning up to work on a Monday, but less grumpy. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking to do interviews for sure, especially when you kind of feel like everything depends on this interview that you're going to do. But try to relax, try and be the normal person that you always are. It's got cut off there, but yeah, check that you're not an arsehole to work with, and check that you fit in with the team. Yeah, that's a big thing, especially like big teams in AAA companies. It's important that you gel with everyone else, like on a social level and on a work level as well. So from my point of view, these are 3 of the most important things that will help you get a job. And this is kind of my entire experience of the last few years that condensed down to 3 words that I think sounds a bit like a rom-com, actually. People, work, passion. No laughs, come on. So yeah, I think things like this, going and meeting actual people that work in the industry and have experience. People are hugely important. They'll teach you stuff. They might even help you get work. This kind of community, this industry, it's just very, very open, and people are willing to help you and willing to share. And there's things like meetups like this, obviously, conferences, groups online and forums, and Twitter is huge. Like, people are just constantly talking on Twitter about game audio and sound design and that kind of thing. So get on Twitter. You've actually got to be all right at doing sound design. Generally, you can teach yourself everything that you need to know to get a junior position, I think, from kind of websites and books, and there are specific courses that teach game audio as well. Podcasts, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think, for me as well, it's just practice. It's just, set yourself a challenge of doing some sound design, and you'll learn so much in the process of actually just doing it, and then send it to someone, who knows what they're talking about, and they'll say, oh, this is good, this is bad, how can you make it better? And then you can kind of take that and apply that to the next bit of sound design that you do. And for me, when I wasn't hired, that was basically how I learned to do sound design. It was just figuring it out by recreating stuff, and then getting guidance from other people, and then doing it again. And this kind of sentiment I really like. If you've kind of done work in advance, when the opportunity, a job arises, you'll be prepared for it. You can't see a job come up and then do all like the work for the job in that day. You know, you've got to kind of be continually thinking about it, continually putting work together, putting show reels and stuff together as well. And passion. I think from my point of view, people might disagree with me, but when juniors get hired, they're not expected to be the best sound designer ever. They're not expected to know everything, and in fact, kind of they are encouraged through the job to learn the trade, the craft. But one of the things that can really help sell you to employers is being passionate and enthusiastic. That is huge, I think. There's so many people who kind of have a passing fancy at sound design, and they maybe do a little bit of stuff while at university and then apply for jobs with like fairly basic applications. But I think, yeah, just showing that you're passionate and showing that you genuinely do care about what you're doing and what you're applying for is, you know, for me, that's like a secret weapon, really. I think that's what gets people jobs in sound design currently. And yeah, as I said, there's so many people applying for these jobs. You need everything that you can kind of use to help you stand out, to help you, be different, I suppose. So, yeah, a lot of people say to me, like, you got this cool job, you know, how did you do that? Did you get some, like, special leg up or something? Or did you have, like, a friend in the company? And none of those things are true. I was just, like, some person that did some work and then persisted, and it kind of worked out. I don't consider myself significant in that sense. I think anyone can achieve what I achieved, and I think anyone can get a job, especially in games, which is quite a welcoming industry, maybe. But yeah. Here's a load of resources that are really helpful. I do a podcast called Soundbites that you should all check out because it's awesome. But podcasts, I think, are really, really cool. Beards, Cats, and Indie Game Audio and the Game Audio podcast are both really, really awesome and worth checking out. They're all guys that have lots and lots of experience and lots of knowledge. And then, as I said, and the Sound Architect podcast. Meetups are huge as well. As I said, meeting people is fantastic. I think the kind of online community is great, but personally, I think there's nothing better than actually sitting down and talking to people in person. So there's all that stuff. And lots of cool websites as well that are worth checking out. So that's it. Thank you very much.